If it costs you your peace, it is too expensive. Hey, my friend, happy, happy day. I am so glad that we get to take this moment every week to just chat. Today, we are chatting about 3 tips to relax your mind and hypnosis for inner peace. Let me tell you, this week's a good one because we are talking about some things that we all deal with, and you may have even dealt with this weekend. So this weekend was kind of an interesting one, I have to say, and I definitely found myself using these 3 tips this weekend because I don't know about you, but there was this crazy intense energy that was coming to us, and it definitely affected me. So let me explain it and see if you felt it too. Friday and Saturday in particular, there was this sense of frustration, anger, fighting, arguments, outbursts, egos come into battle. Yes, my love and I were like battling, egos wanting to win this weekend. And I found myself both on Friday and Saturday tapping into these things because I needed to relax. I needed to shift my energy because no matter what I tried to do, this energy was coming at me and I was just feeling it just like bubble up inside of me. And so I want to share with you 3 tips in case you had this happening to you this weekend, or this may happen in the future. I know it's happened before to me, and I know that it will probably come up again. And so it's always good to have tools in our tool belt, right? So I was super grateful that I could tap into these tips, these tools that I know, so that I could shift my mind out of that and have a great weekend. So let's go ahead and begin with tip number 1. Tip number 1 is to take deep breaths. Now, I know you probably heard this before, or it sounds super simple, right? And it's like many people will just think, oh, whatever. But really, trust me, taking slow, deep breaths absolutely calms your mind, calms your body, and shifts your thinking. So what I recommend doing is taking inhale through your nose, holding it for a few moments, and then exhaling. What this does is it breaks up the pattern of thought that we're having, and it allows us to shift it, right? Now, I can tell you that this weekend, just doing that alone was still not really helping me. Like, it helped in that moment, and I was able to kind of just relax a bit. But then I took it a step further, and I grounded myself. Now, grounding yourself there's tons of different videos out there that you can check out on how to ground yourself, or grounding meditation, or any of those things. Highly recommend looking for one of those. I may even have to just do one, right? But what I do is I imagine that I have roots growing through the bottoms of my feet, right? Just like a tree. And those tree roots grow down into the ground, into the earth, while I am sitting there. And what that does is it really gives my mind an image to tap into the strength of a tree. So if you think about a tree has really deep roots, it's really strong, and can weather any storm, right? Trees have been around for years, and there's some that are like 100, 200 years old. They've been around, they've weathered all the changes that have gone throughout this earth, right? So if you imagine how strong a tree is, so I imagine my roots going all the way down, and then I imagine bringing up that energy from the earth. So I imagine it coming through the roots up and through me, and then up above. And I imagine that I'm like a big, huge tree, right? And I allow the energy from whether it's daylight and the sun, or whether it's nighttime and the moon. I just imagine bringing in that energy. So I'm getting the energy from below and the energy from above. Really helps ground me. Now, what that also does is it takes me out of my mind and into my body, because I begin to feel into my body instead of being trapped in the loop in the story of my mind. So tip number 2 is to then, as I had to do this weekend, is to practice gratitude. Now, I was doing the deep breathing and I was grounding myself, but what happens with me is when I'm angry or frustrated or even stressed, I don't always take it out in a very verbal way. Like I don't yell, I don't scream, right? It's just not my thing. I don't generally do that. Sometimes I do, but for especially this weekend and most of the time, I don't just like, ah, and I just don't like yell. It's just not my thing. But I cry. So I'm extremely emotional. My moon is in Cancer. So I cry. And that is how I like release the emotion. So for me, like I would start crying and then I would like, okay, do my breathing and I'd ground myself and it would help. But then I'd like the thought would come back and then I'd start crying again, right? So I was breaking my pattern up. What I was doing was really stepping out of the pattern. So what I did was I started practicing gratitude. And what that simply is I started just thinking about all the things that I was grateful for. So in the beginning, it was a little bit hard because I was like, oh, I'm so frustrated and this is hard. But what I was like, okay, what am I grateful for? And I was like, okay, well, I'm grateful that I'm sitting here right now, right? Because I went away from the situation. I always recommend that. Sometimes you get nowhere when you stay there and you just keep battling and battling, right? You don't get anywhere. So you got to split apart sometimes. So I was out on our patio and I was just like, okay, like doing these deep breathings, grounding myself. And then I was like, okay, what am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful that I'm here and that I'm not arguing anymore, right? And then it was like, oh, I'm grateful that it's cool outside, right? Because it was evening. So I'm grateful that it's cool outside. And then it was like slowly started to be like, oh, I'm grateful that I have these tools. And I just started like, you know, once I started, it just kept going and going and going. And it was interesting because as I was sitting out on the patio and I looked up into the sky, I could see this really shiny, shining bright light. And I knew it had to be a planet. I didn't look to see what planet it was, but I could see the planet. And I'm like, okay, planet, you know, help me out here. And so, you know, give me your energy. And so I was like, you know, taking that feeling, imagining that I was taking that energy and I was talking to this planet and it was just helping me like really just relax. And what that did was I went from being the frustration, the upset, the angry, the ego wanting to win kind of mindset into a gratitude mindset, which is like complete opposite, right? They're on opposite sides of the spectrum. So this gratitude switched my mind like totally, and I could think clearly. I could, you know, when I'm in that anger and frustration, I don't know about you, but I feel like I can't, my mind is just so trapped in the emotion that I can't seem to get out of it. So when I shifted it 100%, basically, I was able to think clearly. And when I was able to think clearly, I could think about my place, my part in this frustration, in this argument. Why was I really frustrated? Because you all know when we're battling with somebody, when we're fighting with somebody, it's never about this fighting thing right here. It's always about something else. And that gives us an opportunity to grow, to learn, to transform so that we don't stay stuck here, that we can be even better. We always want to be better, right? We always want to grow and develop ourselves. Well, this is an opportunity to do so. So I was able to clear my mind, to relax, so that I could open it up to say, okay, now that I've let this go and I put this over there, what is it that is really bothering me? What is frustrating me? What is it that I'm really upset about? Is this something that I haven't expressed yet? Is this something that I'm not sharing that I need to share, right? What is it that I'm not doing that I can now look at and I can change, I can fix, whatever, right? And then tip number 3. Now, after I practiced the deep breaths and the grounding, and then really, you know, stepping into the gratitude and looking at it, I felt a lot better. I can tell you a lot better with just those 2. But I knew that something else was happening in this universe today or that weekend, because I could feel like everything was this. I could just feel it, right? You follow your intuition, right? And that's exactly what I did. So I was like, I'm going to take a shower. And I was already feeling so relaxed now, and I just wanted to go to sleep. So I took a shower and I got into bed. And when I was in the shower, I was like, you know what? I want to let this go. Like, and I was imagining that I was like letting all of this go, that I was releasing the energy down into the earth. I was just like cleansing myself basically, right? So I laid down in bed, and tip number 3, hypnosis. Now I know you're saying like, of course she's going to say hypnosis. She's the hypnotherapist. Well, yes, of course. Why would I not? Because hypnosis is such a powerful tool. And what I did was I found a sleep hypnosis or something that was complete opposite of the feeling that I was feeling in the moment. And the reason why I did that was I didn't want to stay stuck in what I was already doing. I was already feeling the frustrations and the negative emotions. So I easily could have done a hypnosis for releasing tension, releasing stress, releasing negative emotions, releasing negative thoughts, releasing negative energy. I mean, I could have done any of those, right? But I was like, no, like I felt like I had let it go and I didn't want to go back there. I mean, the conscious decision to say, I'm done. Like, energy, goodbye. I know you're going to come at me, but I'm just going to flow you away, right? And so I did hypnosis for wealth and abundance. And if you think about it, it's total opposite of where I was, right? Inviting abundance and wealth into my life switched my thinking pattern even more. So when I woke up the next morning, which was actually Sunday morning, I was super happy, super positive, ready to start the day, like felt really in control, like nothing's going to get in my way. I even, we decided to go to the beach, and I said, you know what? The 14-year-old and my love started, their ego started going, because, hello, this energy didn't stop. It was still there. So their egos were going to battle still. And I was like, nope, I'm not going there. I'm not inviting myself to this party, right? I'm out. So I stood out of it. And then at one point I was even like, hey, can we just like let our egos go into the corner for the weekend or for the rest of the weekend? Can they just all just exit this vehicle, exit this space, exit our encounters for the day? And can we just go about this day, coming from a place of love? And, they're like, what? But I was like, no, and I can tell you within, I don't know, the next 15 minutes or so, everybody's energy just kind of relaxed. And we had a wonderful day at the beach. Wonderful day at the beach, let me tell you. So I can say that these 3 tips absolutely helped me this weekend. And I was so glad that I could tap into them and use them. Now, sometimes just one of these things is going to work for you. And sometimes all 3 are going to be needed. So whatever works best for you, tap into these things, use these, okay? So let me do a quick recap of our 3 tips. Tip number 1 is to take deep breaths, and you can even add in grounding. Tip number 2 is to practice gratitude, to say what you're grateful for and really shift that thinking. And then tip number 3 is hypnosis. Find a hypnosis that will work for you, whether it is in fact releasing the negativity or if it is in something completely different like I did. Well, those are our 3 tips for today. And below, you'll find a link to our Hypnosis for Inner Peace. Now, I'm going to invite you to check out this Hypnosis for Inner Peace, because this is something that not only can you use when you're frustrated or when you're stressed or when you're angry, but it is such a beautiful hypnosis to help you have a resource that you can tap into anytime, and really tap into the confidence, to the inner resources that you already have inside of you. All we're doing is waking them up and giving you an opportunity to learn how to tap into it in a heartbeat. All right, that's it for us today. Remember to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and find peace.